I blogged about the women who were just still next door. And after I blogged about them, I described them and what they were wearing. After I blogged about them, they got up and I saw them leaving. So I knew that somebody had told them, get out of there. Because somebody was watching my blog. And they left in quite a hurry. All of a sudden. And then I left that coffee place, and right about that time, I think that I stayed in town a little bit. I tried to go maybe to the dock to find out when something left for Bainbridge because I thought there's something really wrong. I stayed a little bit longer in the town at that time, and I started getting the disease symptoms again. I went to the Irish pub, and they were playing this really horrible music. A bartender or two there seemed to really already know who I was and hate me. I'm really not making up this stuff about seem to hate me. There are a lot of people that hate me. And back then, especially for some of those who didn't have full information as to like a lot of people just heard all the slander about me, I think. I think some people believed that this article written about me was true, that certain things that they'd been told that I had done, I think they thought all these things were true. And they hadn't heard anything different. And I was sitting at this bar, and it was somebody who appeared to be Jewish, sat across the table with me, got some hot wings for himself. I didn't want anything. I just had a lot of water. And I was totally dizzy. I was about ready to have to go to the emergency room again. And I had that same feeling while I was sitting with him across the table, and he was staring into my eyes again. Kind of the same thing. I went to the bathroom, and I just drank tons of water. And then I continued to have this metallic taste coming up. I mean, my tongue, the tip of my tongue, is still, to this day, it's burnt red from that cigarette that these women gave me. Like, it permanently changed my, like my taste buds and the skin on my tongue. It wasn't just a surface burn, it's still there. I still have a mark from it. And my throat was burning, and I had this taste of metal, which I had never experienced in my entire life, ever. It was basically like I was tasting liquid metal in coming up, kind of. And then I was feeling so sick, I had to call the emergency room again because I was about to pass out. I was dizzy again. I still had somebody assaulting me. I didn't know if it was this guy across the table from me. Felt sick. And I had the metallic taste. So then I called for an ambulance, and I said, how long is it going to take? And I told them where I was. And they kept asking me to repeat things over and over again. And then they said that they'd be there in 30 minutes. So it took them forever to get there. And then when I was waiting outside for them to show up, they yeah, it took them about a half an hour or more. And in the meantime, somebody was, I guess, gassing up a jet. Because what happened next was totally bizarre. When they finally arrived, I was standing outside. Told them I'd be standing outside the place. And when they pulled up, as they were pulling up, I could see their faces, you know, as they came towards me in the ER van, and I was really sick. I felt too dizzy to walk, even. And I think I started feeling better just because, probably because I was away from that man. Because possibly he was doing something or used some sort of technology when I was right next to him. But I left the Irish pub. I drank a ton of water, then I left the Irish pub and I was standing outside. And, but I was still feeling sick. And then these guys showed up. And when I saw them show up, I saw that they were mocking me and that they looked like they were ready for a great game. And by the look on their faces, I thought, if I go into an ambulance, I might not come back alive. And I also had a feeling that if I went into an ambulance, I was going to go straight to the psychiatric ward in Seattle. So I did let them talk to me, but then when this man said to me, they both looked Irish. They looked Irish-American, both of them. And I say that they looked Irish because they had like this Irish eyes look about them. And when one of them said to me, he said, I didn't say anything to him about having a metallic taste, but he said, so do you have any symptoms, or are you dizzy? And I said, well, I'm feeling dizzy and this and that. And actually, possibly I did say that I have a metallic taste in my mouth. Either I said I had a metallic taste and his eyes lit up, and I thought, oh, this is bad. Or he said, do you have any kind of like metallic taste in your mouth, or any weird taste, like a metallic taste or something like that? And then I said yes, and then his eyes lit up. I think that he asked me. I think that he was the one that asked me, did you have any kind of odd taste, metallic or something? And then when I said yes, his eyes lit up and he smiled and looked over at the other medic. However it came about, his reaction was enough for me to say, okay, I cannot go into that ER ambulance. However, I think that since I had never declined an ambulance before, they expected me to be getting into that ambulance. And I didn't. I said, I know. I said, I called, but I'm feeling better now. And I have to go. And I was feeling slightly better because I was out of the, I don't know why. Maybe it was because I was away from the, whatever it was that was causing me to feel so dizzy. But I still had this metallic taste in my mouth and everything. But I just thought, I'm going to have to figure out what to do and go back to where I was staying and then see if I can get out of here. And so they said, we need to talk to you for that. And I said, really, I have to go. So then I left, and I'm telling you, like, right about the time that people would have expected me to have been in the ambulance, being escorted by ambulance to the hospital to be possibly sent to a psychiatric ward. Right about that time, this huge, well, jet is either, I don't know if I would describe it as a huge jet or a very small plane, comes over the Irish pub and that whole area where I just was, like barely clearing the tops of the buildings. And I remember thinking, what in the world is a plane? I've lived near airplane bases before. I lived in Moses Lake. They had Japan Airlines and a lot of other airlines, different things. And I didn't live on the base, but I had a friend that lived on a base. And, I mean, I've been in airports. I know what normal air clearance is. And whoever got this air clearance to fly that low over the heart of Seattle, right there, that was something that could not have just been like a private plane. That had to have been some kind of a government plane or somebody who was connected to the government getting some kind of a clearance to drive a plane or a jet that low, and it was huge. And when I say, I mean, yes, there was an airport around, but not this, I really don't know how to describe it. I mean, I could see the detail work underneath on the belly of the jet. It was about the size of, and I'm not very good at like building estimations, but I'm trying to think how to describe it. Okay, I'll have to go by city blocks, because that's probably the best thing, like a standard city block in Seattle. This jet or whatever was about as wide or wider than a city block. It was like a small plane. It wasn't like a tiny little jet. It wasn't a helicopter size. It wasn't like a little 4-seater that, or 6-seater like I've been in, like a private party kind of a plane. You know, it wasn't something that you train in. It was like a small plane. It was about the wingspan of maybe a block. And it was down, I would have to look at those blocks. And if I was like standing right where I was before in town in a block situation, I might be able to say, okay, it was about, wingspan was about as wide as a half a block and as long as a block to 2 blocks, and then just up above us a tiny bit, or the wingspan of a block, but probably the wingspan of a full block at least. And then half a block to a block. And then the clearance on that plane was unbelievably low. There's no possible way you could get a permit to fly that low unless it was a special exception to the rule. I mean, I'm telling you, there's no possibility. I've seen all kinds of things, and there's no possibility. And what I find really strange is that that plane did not that plane basically showed up within 10 minutes after the ambulance had arrived and I had left that ambulance. So somebody had already, you know, within a half an hour's time, had geared a plane up to drive that direction, to be making very low clearance and a presence known in Seattle over the Irish pub. About a half an hour, about 45 minutes, half an hour to 40 minutes after I called for an ambulance because I was being assaulted repeatedly. So I lost my singing voice, and Seattle celebrated with a jet flying at special K clearance. And I'm going to stop there for right now, for tonight.